Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Let's Get Real podcast. My name is Eric Claudio, your favorite realtor, aka Cloud E, or non-generic Eric, because I keep it real with you. Welcome. Well, I fucked up already. It's okay. Welcome to the Let's Get Real podcast, where we interview interesting, fun, and successful individuals who have devoted themselves to their craft in order to share with you, the audience, a real perspective of what people are actually doing to live happy, fulfilling lives in today's world. Today's guest is a self-made man who created an incredible life for himself and the people around him by maximizing his knowledge and practice in the real estate industry. He has a proven track record of generosity, execution, and reliability. He's the kind of man that you can venture into a business project with and then crack jokes with for hours afterwards, all in the same day. I'm very excited to present this real estate expert, family man, and my good friend and mentor, Dean Thomas. Let's get a little excited, Dean.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show, Dean. I really appreciate it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thanks, man.
Yeah?
That was a nice little introduction there.
Yeah, I like to hype up my clients and my guests on the show, and that way you guys feel nice and warm. But Dean, I did want to start diving into a few of these questions, just because I did think about it. I feel like they're really good. So we all know the real estate industry is diluted with realtors, right? There's just too many realtors. What do you think has made you stand out as a real estate professional over the years? And do you think those attributes can apply to a new realtor today who also wants to stand out?
Back in around 1987, 1988, the interest rates were very high. There was a recession. 65% of the properties went into foreclosure or were given back to the bank, or people went into bankruptcy. And you couldn't get a new loan for 7 years back at that time if you had any kind of financial hardship, right? And yet there was people that had a lot of money in the bank. They were quite creditworthy, but their credit report had a bad number. So I learned, and the interest rates, though, had gone from 18, creep back down to 14, went to 12, went to 11. All these people can afford to buy homes, but their credit was messed up during that recession cycle. So I went to the Beach Reporter, and I created an ad that said, if the lender has told you no, I will tell you yes. Contact me, Dean Thomas, Remax, Beach Cities Realty. Right? And I ran that ad for like 2 years, 2.5 years. And it actually brought me business. Now, what was interesting I also grew up. I went from 27 years old to 29 years old. And I'm going, man, I'm running an ad that's bringing me people with hardships.
Right.
And I knew how to work the hardship. That's why I was making money. Because I was always, around that time, Eric, I was always in the top 100 agents at Remax in California. And California had like 20,000, 18,000 agents. For a while, I got to be one of the top 100 agents in the nation. And what I did back then, after doing that for 2 years, I was not worried about advertising, spending money on advertising, because I knew it made my phone ring. So what I did was I started advertising. Instead of, if the lenders told you no, I'll tell you yes, I went a different vibe. I took the same space in the Beach Reporter ad, and I said, if it has an ocean view, I know about it.
I like that.
Right? If it has an ocean view, I know about it. Contact Dean Thomas for ocean view properties. And you know Fred Crawford?
Yeah.
You know how I met Fred Crawford?
Through that ad?
Through that ad.
Really?
We've bought buildings together. He's done another real estate with me together. And he called me up, and he goes, Dean Thomas. And I said, yes, who's this? He tells me Fred Crawford. And he says, Dean, I've been looking at real estate for the last a year, actually. And he goes, I haven't found one ocean view property that I've liked. And I said, Fred, if I tell you about an ocean view property that you haven't heard about and you like it, Will you give me your word that you'll buy it from me? He said, absolutely.
Nice.
And I said, has anybody, now what was interesting, Fred, is that day, Eric, that day at my office at Remax, an agent listed a property on El Redondo with a stunning ocean view. But she didn't put ocean view on the MLS. And you know when agents search by view?
Right.
Now you got to remember, this is 1988. There's no Zillow yet. There's none of this Redfin, none of this stuff.
They're relying on the realtor.
They're relying on the realtor for
Right.
information. But still, if she would have checked the box view on the MLS, it would have came up as the agent was searching for a view. And you couldn't even save buyer's parameters back then. You had to like search every time, right? So anyways, I said to Fred, have you heard about the property on El Redondo? It's got stunning views. And he goes, no, I have not. And I said, why don't you meet me over there in the next hour if you can, because it's going to sell really quick. And we had just caravanned it at the office caravan. He looked at it and he goes, I love it. And he wrote an offer that day on it.
Beautiful.
And it was done. And then, we've been friends and have done business for, like I said, forever.
That's one thing I've definitely, another gem that I've kept with me is like the relationships is what it's all about more than anything. Because I've seen how your relationships have developed all these years for that simple transaction, and now Fred is like part of your network and just an awesome client that you have.
Well, and you know what, Eric, it's really at the end of the day, it's if you really care about people, if you really care about them, and you're not really like going all about me, like what can I get out of this? So many people in life are like, what can I get out of this? And for your clients, if you really want to build long-term clients that ultimately end up being your friends, right? Because you've been around me a bit. You know how many friends I have, right? And not all my friends buy real estate, but I'm going to say probably 70% of my friends, we've done real estate transactions in the past. So, building those relationships and caring about people and really overseeing their stuff, making sure that
right,
their interest is being, protected.
I definitely carry that with me as much as I can, Dean. And I'm moving on to my next question here, which is, throughout your career, there must have been points where you feel you plateaued and you wanted to reach another level. Do you recall what adjustments you made to break that ceiling? Is there anything specific that you feel you changed?
Well, there was a few times that's happened, right? And as a result of that, another company opened.
Okay.
Right? So you probably, again, Eric, we'll go through the conversation, but, my first, up until 1996, I was a real estate salesperson. That's it. Right? And then in 1996, me and my partner, Eric, I was like, this is not much of a challenge. I was doing a lot of it, right? So we decided, I made my broker an offer to buy his company off him at Realty Executives, and he turned the offer down. So I said to one of my friends, Kevin Sullivan, I said, Kevin, let's open a mortgage company, and let's have the mortgage company own the real estate company. Now, we were the first company in Los Angeles where realtors were doing loans. Because what happened, Eric, is, like right now your license is under KW. You can't do loans at KW.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if your license was under Bayside Properties, which was our real estate company, and Bayside Properties was owned by Value Mortgage, which was a lender, then your license was under both companies.
Right.
So it allowed you to do both. It was revolutionary in the area.
That's awesome. Getting paid on the loan and on the commission?
Or think about it differently. When you have clients, I don't know if you know this number, but the average homeowner in California sells their home once every 4.8 years, right? And when you're by the beach, it's once every 7 or 8 years, maybe 9 years, because where else are you going to move?
I think that number is getting longer, too.
Right. So the reason why we opened a mortgage company is, for me, one, I wanted more volume, more business. I wanted to grow a company. We grew to 60 agents. But I wanted my agents to be able to make income in any market. Because when the real estate market slows down, the financial market seems to pick up. People need money. People need money. They're not selling as much real estate. So having the loan company gave me a little bit of comfort.
Right.
Being diversified to where the agents, whether they were doing a real estate transaction or whether they were doing a loan transaction, the company was being successful and the agents were being successful.
Right.
Right? Because if you know how it is, man. If you're only you know how it is, how tough the real estate business is. So me as the company owner, creating more ways for agents to stream their business, that was the first leap. So I told you there was a couple leaps. Then the next leap was I used to sell a lot of land, a lot of lots to builders, and I had a business model there. And you've watched this model over the years. I'd sell a lot to a builder. He'd build 4 on the property. Then I'd sell the 4 properties he built.
Right.
Right? Now, if you're working with 3 developers and you have each of them doing 1 or 2 or 3 at a time, you can see that flow of business right there.
All day.
Right? And then if you have access to financing, because we own a mortgage company, and we can help our investors borrow money, I can tell you over the last 6 months, 7 months, we've done 12, 15 loans with our investors, right? They wanted to borrow some money off their real estate so they can buy their real estate. So the next step was in 1998, there was a property at 916 First Street in Hermosa Beach. And it's actually up there on my wall.
That's the one with the curves?
That's the one with the curves.
Oh, yeah, that's that one right there.
So,
oh, no, that's another one.
So what was so interesting about this, Eric, is I projected, whenever I bring in an investor a property or a builder a property, I put together spreadsheets and I put together comparables, cost to build, and give them the reason why they should buy it. You give them a reason why and it makes sense, they'll do it. So I'm doing the math on this and I'm going, okay, each unit will sell for $400,000. And the land was $300,000. And each unit was 2,000 square feet. And at the time it was less than $200 a foot to build, right? So, no, actually the units were, I scratched that. The units were going to sell for $600,000 each, not $400,000. They were going to cost $400,000 each to build. That's where I got the math wrong. So they were going to cost $400,000 each total to build, and we were able to sell them for $600,000 each, and that equaled $800,000.
Right.
So I was going to bring it to this builder, and he was going to make $800,000, and I was going to make my commission of 2.5%, which would have been about $65,000. And I was young, right? I was like, this is 1998. And I go, you know what? I'm going to build this. So I called up, but I didn't know how to build. So I called up one of my friends who he knew how to build really very meticulously. And I told him that I have this property. Let's each both put up half the money and we'll build this thing. And we'll make, $400,000 each. Bro, we ended up selling them for $800 a piece.
Wow.
Not $400 a piece.
That's double the profit.
Extra $800,000.
Yeah.
We made $800,000 on one property.
Wow. In 1998.
In 1998. So think about this, man.
Yeah.
So I'm a realtor, and I have a loan company, and we do this development project and made that much money. I mean, Eric, it would take us, at that time, 4 years to make that much money.
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
Right?
He did it in what, a year and a half?
A year and a half.
Yeah.
A little less than that. It was amazing. So when I get a little chuckle on my face because I learned at that time that there's the next level.
Right.
So we opened up a development company.
Mm-hmm.
And South Bay Development,
Check
we have
them
a
out.
company to this day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? South Bay Development. So with that, the level of real estate, finance, development, and then I met you and I already owned a real estate corporation, but it was just the beginning level of e-real estate corp.
Right.
And you brought a whole different edge to e-real estate corp. You opened my mind to things that my mind would have never been open to, thus having 1,000 domain names.
Right.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like you. I mean, I already had, I already had several.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, you know what? This is an arena that is amazing, right? So it sort of lit my fire, and you saw I was on fire for like 3 years. Over
I remember you'd call me randomly, Eric. Hey, I got these ideas, 3 domains. Buy them right now.
It was, and I look back at that, and I got to tell you, man, I look back, and that was one of it. It's not recognized yet, but that was the coolest real estate move I've ever made. And by the time I get done working, people are going to see that, right? I just know it. I mean, and like, I sort of like, I look at like, watch this. We're talking real time, right? And you're going to ask me more questions.
Yeah.
But watch this. The other day, within the last week, one of my clients called me up and said, "You want 18 listings?" Now, there was a time in my career where I'd have done leaps and flips and been all hot and whoa, yo, this is cool, right? But what I did is I called up you, my partner, who I know is very professional, and said, "Hey, bro, you want to work on this with me?" Right? Because even though I'm very interested in completing those 18 transactions, I'm more interested in completing 1,000.
Right.
Right? And that's just the way I think, Eric. It's the way I think. And I think by thinking outside of the box, it's paid off my entire career. Right? And we're talking about a career that was 70s, 80s, 90s, aughts, the teens, now the 2020s. So thinking outside the box, man. I think it's cool. It's like it's things that a lot of people cannot do.
Right.
Right? But if you can, run with it.
Break the ceiling. That's how you're gonna break the ceiling. Right.
Just think outside the box. And I mean, you can't. One thing we know is there's a big world out there, and people want to take your money. People want your money. There's what we call the blue ocean. You can get lost in the blue ocean.
Yeah.
Right? But if you know what you're doing is right, and no matter, it in the pit of your gut that it's right, then you do it as much. I mean, that's my model anyways. If I know what I'm doing is right, then I have to stick with it. I have to stick with what I believe is right. So
Absolutely. Go full force with it, Dean. And that's what I think it's about. I think people reach their plateau and then they don't find that edge. They don't think outside the box and they stay there. And then I've seen people do that. They just stay there forever and ever and ever, which is cool if you're happy. But like, I think most people do want to break that ceiling, but it's just hard to get a little creative and take the risk, be willing to take the risk.
Well, and it takes dedication, man. I mean, Eric, I've known you for a long time. You know how hard you have to work if you want to have nice things in life, right? And the interesting thing for me is I've been around the block. I've been to a lot of countries. I've traveled a lot. It's the same score everywhere. Everywhere I've experienced, there's the people who work their back off, and they always seem to have a little extra, right? And I don't think there's anything that's like anything new or like mind-boggling about that. It's like the person works really, really hard.
Right.
Right. So when you look around at your friends, man, and you see the ones that are like smiling and chilling and making videos, playing some instruments, doing whatever they're doing, right? Wow, they're working hard so they can have some fun. So I admire people that work really, really hard. I can't tell you what. I was a little bummed out for a while about this technology and this auto tip thing.
Auto tip?
Think about it. Every time you put your credit card up,
Oh yeah, they have the screen.
no matter where you go, it says, do you want to give 10%, 15%, 18%, 20% or other?
Right.
So that's never been a decision for me. I've never been asked that question, except for when you go to a restaurant, you normally give a tip, right? Now it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So, like, it used to bother me. And then I tweaked my thinking. And I'm like, you know what, Dean? Instead of being bothered, you should appreciate the fact that this person is working right now and trying to get ahead. And get you helping them get ahead a little bit is not a bad thing. I have an option to say no, right? And I tweak my thinking on that. But what I do when that happens, whenever I get the auto tip, I ask the person, if I give this tip to you, do you get the money?
Right. They don't always get it.
Right? Because if they tell me no, then I'll pull cash out of my pocket and hand it to them.
Ah.
Right? But I think that's important. Is corporate taking that money?
They divide it amongst themselves. The manager takes their cut, something. I don't really know how it works.
I don't know how it works either, but if they're, charging 18% on the push of every button.
Most people say yes. I think most people are kind-hearted, and they go, yeah, at least the 15 or
give
the 10.
Something, right?
Yeah,
right. But I think it's a fair question because if I'm going to do it, I want to give it to that person standing there.
Right.
And I don't know if that's how it works out. But
yeah, I don't know either. But for sure, Dean, I think hard work always pays off no matter what. It might not be immediately. It might be in the form of a lesson. It might be in the form of your mentality shifting. But it will certainly pay off. And that's something my dad taught me. You taught me. All the hardworking people I know that have done something that I'm proud to know, they always just work hard and it's going to work out.
Claudia, let me share one more experience with you. This is back, I'm still a teenager now, 19 years old. So this lady, we used to go in the newspapers, and I'm calling for sell by owners, right? I used to call for sell by owners every day. And I got this lady, Kay Boykin. I'll never forget her name. Kay and her husband had a duplex for sale on 53rd in Normandy. Now, my office is in Redondo Beach, but I told you that when I was a teenager, I was going to L.A. to get my business.
Right.
Because I was new, man. It was like, but Kay Boykin met me at the property. She had a vacant duplex. And I can't believe it. I think it was 18 still, bro. I wasn't even 19. She listed it with me for $53,000. And I felt so good walking out of that place. I got I think it was my first listing, actually. Might have been my second. So, interestingly enough, 2 weeks later, I sold it to a veteran. And I double popped it.
Nice.
And Kay told me that if I sold the property within 30 days, she'd give me a substantial bonus. Right? And I sold it in 2 weeks. It's $53,000. I got 6%. Right? So that's 53 times 6 was 30,000. My dad got his 30%. So I got like $2,300. And I'm 18 years old, $2,300. I'm feeling good about this, right? But Kay never gave me my bonus.
Oh.
And this transaction closed in like April or May. I forget exactly when. Somewhere around the summertime. She never gave me my bonus. Now, I was 18. I didn't have the guts to call her up and say, hey, what about the bonus?
Yeah, especially after you double popped it.
Right. So I didn't have the guts to do it, but you wouldn't believe what happened. It's like December 13th, December 14th, and Kay was beautiful. She's a beautiful lady, right? Her and her husband come pulling up into the parking lot at my office on the corner of Inglewood Avenue and Artesia, where I showed you where I started, right? They come pulling up in this brown Cadillac, and I see it's Kay Boykin getting out of the car. And she used to call me darling. Hello, darling, how are you today? Hi, Miss Boykin, how are you? Good. She goes, remember I told you I was going to give you that bonus if you sold the house in a month? She goes, I didn't forget that. and she gave me $700.
Woo!
$700 2 weeks before Christmas.
That's nice. That's covered Christmas, I
No,
bet.
oh yeah, I gotta ask you a question. You think I went in and asked my dad if he wanted his 30%?
Absolutely not. Cash money, nah.
Just saying.
You know, it's funny. Something. I had a client promise me a bonus, and I never actually got it. Unfortunately, but it is what it is. I guess some people come to believe.
Do you have a little stench on you with it?
No. You know what? It was fine. I charged the commission properly because it was a lot of work. He was in New York, and the house was here in LA, and it was a complete disaster. Spent 2 Saturdays there with Sophie cleaning it up, and he knew I was doing the extra mile. So I also charged a higher commission for that. But he told me, I said, Eric, don't worry, man. I'm going to get you a bonus. Listed it at $490. We sold it at $530. He was excited. But I never got my bonus.
So we don't get it. We don't. I'm just going to say,
It's all right.
What's that thing you forgive but you don't forget? I had a guy one time, he asked me if he could borrow $3,000. And he closed 4 escrows with me that year. He didn't ask me if I'd give him $3,000. He asked if I could borrow $3,000. So 6 months went by. He didn't give my $3,000 back. And I said, hey, Jimmy, you got my $3,000. He goes, I can't believe you're asking me for the money. I go, Jimmy. He goes, I bought 4 properties from you this year. I go, Jimmy, when you asked for that $3,000, you didn't say, hey, Dean, can I have $3,000? You said, will you loan me $3,000? Right? So I said, bro, I want my $3,000.
Of course. He was your client, though?
He was my client, yeah.
Oh, shit.
He got a little... Well, what happened was, the way I collected the money, Eric, look, keep it real on Eric's Cloud E podcast, right? So he didn't offer to give it to me, the money. And I wrote him a letter, man, right? Because he was my friend for like 15 years and a client. And I wrote him a letter that was like not a real friendly one. And instead of mailing it, Jan remembers, I put it up in my desk, and I just left it there, and I looked at it, and I looked at it for 3 years. And one day, Jimmy called me up, and Jim says, Dean, I have a real estate problem. Can you help me out? I looked up at the letter, and I said, Jim, what can I do for you? And he told me what the situation was. So I got him out of that real estate transaction, got him into another one, double popped it, didn't give him a break, got $29,000, and he paid me my $3,000 back.
Gotcha.
I said, Jimmy, I'll get you out of this one. But, bro, with my pleasure, bro, with my pleasure. Thank you so much for calling me. But you still owe me that $3,000, dude.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, you know.
It's the principle.
I wouldn't cheat you, Eric, for $1.
Right.
And I wouldn't expect you to cheat me for $1. I expect us to help each other. But if you tell me you're going to do something, since the day I've known you, if you tell me you're going to do something, you do it. And it's the day you've known me.
Exactly.
Same thing. And that's where a good relationship is. And you know, it's a little hurtful when the chink gets broken, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
You think it would have been different if we actually sent him that letter?
Oh yeah.
I guess you're glad he didn't send it then.
Well, and you know the Bailey family.
Yeah.
Right? Joe Bailey. A couple of times, we've had a couple of times where we didn't talk to each other for a few years because he felt I owed him something. But look at his real estate portfolio. I sold him every property he owns.
Yeah.
It's a pretty healthy portfolio.
Yeah.
Right? Love, Joe.
Let's move on here to the next question, Dean. I'm going to kind of move into this. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. What changes do you foresee in the real estate industry? Because there's a lot of things going on. Technology is a good topic, but there's the big class action lawsuit right now with NAR, and people fighting for the buyer's agent compensation to not even exist anymore. There's that conversation, right? And we've talked about this. Other countries, they just have listing agents, go directly to the listing agent. That's one side. And then there's a technology side, Dean. What do you foresee in, say, the next 10 years of the real estate industry? How do you think it's going to change with these conversations?
So I think the technology side it's there. it's going to be there, and it's there. And if you're smart about the way you do things, you utilize the technology to benefit yourself.
Right. AI.
Right? You'll just use it to benefit yourself. Right? So what was the root of the question, though, Eric?
What do you foresee changing in the real estate
Okay,
industry with
so
all these conversations
let
going
me,
on?
Let's instead of saying what I see changing right now, let me tell you what I see as the dilemma.
Okay.
Right? So the dilemma is interest rates for 8 years, 9 years were under 4%.
Right.
Right?
Now they're at 8.
Now they're at 8. And they're not done. Right? But they were at 3 to 4%. So it's the first time in the history of our nation that real estate interest rates doubled within a 1-year period.
Right.
Now
I didn't think about it that way.
Now they've gone more than doubled. So the dilemma is there's no inventory in the market right now. Agreed? Very little inventory.
Right. Limited.
Right? So why is that? Because how am I going to sell my house that I have a rate under 3% and go buy a house at 8% and have that make any sense?
Right.
Right? So now you have a pool of people who don't want to sell their homes because their rate's so low. So most of the people are relocating now, right? It's like if you have somebody coming in town, right? But not most people right now in neighborhoods are wanting to sell their home. I looked at how many sales took place in the last month, single family homes in Redondo, Hermosa, and Manhattan Beach. Less than 30.
Yeah.
How many agents are there, bro? 2,000?
Thousands. Yeah.
Think about it. Less than 30 transactions. So, knowing that the rates are not going to go back, how do you get the property owners to sell their home, to motivate them to sell their home? Well, many years ago, 20 years ago, it used to be that when you sold your home, you would buy a new home within 24 months and pay 0 taxes.
Okay.
Right? So about 20 years ago, they changed the laws where if you sell your home, if you're single, the first $250,000 is tax-free.
Right.
And if you're married, the first $500,000 is tax-free.
So that's only like a 20-year-old rule.
About 20 years ago.
Okay.
All right. So, can you hit that Gmoe? Side button. And then turn it off to the red if you don't mind. There's a click, just silent.
The left side? Yeah.
All right. Okay, so where we're at is
Yeah.
with the rates being this low, and I just mentioned to you that it used to be you can sell your property and get deferred all into
Right.
your new home. It wouldn't be tax free. It would be tax deferred. So
Okay.
if you bought a house for $150, you sold it for $400, you bought a home for over $400, that profit goes into the new house. Then that house goes up in value. You either buy a new house and defer that in, but you still owe the taxes on the first one, and you still owe on the second one. So those were deferments; they weren't tax free.
Really? You used to be able to do that just like a 1031 exchange
Correct.
with your primary residence.
Correct. It just had to be you had to buy one for more than what you sold,
Okay.
and you would defer it. Now, instead of that happening, you get $250,000 tax free if you're single.
Right.
$500,000 tax free if you're married. So you have a bunch of people that don't want to sell their homes because if they do, they're going to end up paying taxes on it,
Right.
right? And so how do you create more inventory for the market if everybody's got these rates? So you asked me what I'm seeing in the future here, right?
Yeah.
So you have these banks all carrying loans at 3% when money costs 8%.
Right.
You've got these homeowners that are all paying 3% when money costs 8%. So you have the unbalanced bank and you have the unbalanced homeowner. So I think what they're going to have to do to create stimulation in the market is make the sale of your home a tax-free event.
Wow. Interesting.
Right? For anybody, it's equal. Whether your home is 600,000, 400,000, or 4 million, make the sale of your home a tax-free event. Now, let's just say that if it exceeds X, there's going to be some tax.
Okay.
Because it's interesting. But if we make the sale of a home a tax-free event, then you got people going, well, I could sell my house and get $1 million and not pay any taxes.
Right.
Now, what's more important, that 3% rate or the $1 million they can get?
Okay. Yeah.
You feel me?
I get it.
So now you're going to stimulate more. You're going to stimulate a lot of people in the market.
So some changing of some rules of some laws can potentially help.
And I believe that. I mean, that's already been talked about in the legislation. They've been talking about increasing it from 250 and 500,
right,
to 500 a million. Right.
Interesting.
I'm not quite sure that does it, but somewhere along those lines, I see that coming around in the future. Then the other part of it, Eric, is, frankly, I think that agents are going to have to be more empowered, right? And I've talked to you about this many, many, many times. You know, in corporate real estate, whether it's Keller Williams, Remax, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, the agents have to fall in line with how much they're going to give the buying agent.
Right.
Agreed?
Yeah, I signed something that said that.
You got to fall in line. And do you have to fall in line when you get a listing?
I think so.
Can you take a listing at 1.5%?
Yeah, you can. You can. You just can't promote it. Is what at my company. You can't advertise it, but I think you can take a lower commission. You might just need approval from your office.
Okay, but you have to give, the buyer has to get 2%.
Yeah, they at least 2% on the selling side.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right? So I just think that I think that technology is gonna create the necessity to have more agent empowerment to make decisions without the company giving them the stress of you have to charge no less than this.
Okay.
Right? Because, like I said, I mean, if you right now put a property up for Zillow, for any of your clients, say they didn't want to go on the MLS right now. And let's say you're going to go, okay, I'm going to help you without putting it on the MLS. So you get with them and you upload it all to Zillow, right? And you put your phone number on as the contact person.
Like a for sale by owner.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I've done that for a couple of my clients to help them out, right? And me be the contact person and filter it out. And you know what happens? I get at least 20 text messages a day that says, I'll put your property in the MLS for $1,900.
Yeah.
I'll put your property in the MLS for $998.
Yeah, I've seen those.
That stuff comes all day long.
It's an option. Also, when you enter in the MLS, it says like what service type. It says entry only. They also have that on the MLS as like a little option.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
But that's where I think in the future of the real estate business, like a lot of hard work. That's good old natural business. There, just working hard. But learning being able to be a little bit flexible and having some flexibility is really, really important.
I think so too, Dean. I think that comes back to the out of the box thinking, that we were talking about earlier.
Well, if you have to tell a customer no because your boss has a policy, that's like something to at least
you lose that customer, right? Somebody else will take it.
I hate to tell somebody to go somewhere else.
All right, Dean. So I'm going to kind of step out of the real estate. I'm going to dive into a little bit more of our personal opinions on some stuff. As a father and a grandfather who came from nothing and you're self-made, you built up what you have on your own. I'm finding that you have to find a balance with your kids as far as giving them too much and also not giving them enough. Because for me, I grew up, maybe you could say, having just enough, but not having everything I wanted. And although it's tough sometimes, I'm glad that's the way it happened because it's given me so much drive. And then sometimes I look at my son, Ethan, and I'm like, man, this kid gets everything he wants. And sometimes I fear that, will that not give him the same drive that I have, on certain things. So you as a father and as a grandfather, where do you draw a line with that?
The biggest fear I have now as a father is my kids feel like they have to compete with me. Because I don't draw someone's success on money.
Okay.
That's just not the way I roll. I like, if someone's happy, they're happy. And I don't like to see, especially my kids, you brought my kids into it. So I don't like to see my kids unhappy. And it doesn't matter to me how much money they're making. It's just whether they're happy or not.
Right.
You know what I mean? So with that, I mean, I personally, a gentleman told me, I had a tough childhood, Eric, right? And a gentleman told me to give my kids everything I wish was given to me.
Mm-hmm.
Best advice I ever got in my life, right? Because whether I overdid it or not, I did it, right? And I presented my kids a lot of opportunity.
Right.
Now I sit back and I say, guys, I did my part.
Right.
Right. And even like when I have a little dispute or conflict with the kids, right? And it happens once in a while, right? It's like, look at guys, any way you skin it, I did my part.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, you could be upset at dad for whatever reason or whatever, but like, I'm like, the one thing that I did do is I did provide for you guys, and when I mean provide, I mean education, love, all that kind of stuff. You give your kids, So I'm going to say give your kids all the love you can, and I also, but I believe making the kids work. Like we had nice homes growing. My kids had nice homes growing up, but Dylan and Blake and Jelaine used to rent parking spots on holidays for $10 a spot so they could make some extra money.
Yeah.
So dad just wasn't dishing out the dough, but I was unlike my dad. I'd bribe him for grades.
Yeah, there you go.
I bribe my kids for grades.
There you go.
You guys bring home A's, you're getting paid.
Because there's a big value in understanding you got to earn stuff, and I think I see, like, I remember growing up as a teenager, back to school, we'd go back to school shopping at the swap meet, 3 T-shirts for $10, and that's what I'm wearing to school. And then you go to school, and there's some kids. They got the new Nikes, they got the fresh mall T-shirts, and I wanted to be that.
Tough,
I wanted that to be me so bad, and they make fun of you maybe once in a while. There's comments and things like that. I remember one time too. I don't know if Gmoe was there. We were hanging out like on a Friday. Shout out Gmoe behind the camera always. And
Gmoe.
I remember we were hanging out like on a Friday or something. And we were trying to make plans to hang out and go to the movies. And I remember I didn't have money. I know my parents didn't have money to go to the movies. And then we have that one guy, and he said, man, Eric's always broke. He can't do nothing. His parents are poor. Oh. Some shit like that. And I remember I swung at him in the face. Yeah. And we had our little, we had our fight that moment. But, those moments stick with you. And now as an adult that I have control of my destiny, I'm like, fuck that. That's never going to be me again. That's not going to be my kids. But then he knows what I'm talking about. And now I'm like, okay, I see those kids that showed up with the T-shirts, with the fresh clothes, and I see how they're plateaued. They're stuck in the same place, and I don't see any progress with them over now that we're several years into adulthood. And I see myself every year continuing to progress. So I go, man, what did that for me? It was that hunger. It was that drive. So I just want to make sure I replicate that into my kids.
What keeps it going?
I think it's the fear of not having anything, knowing what that's like.
That and the pride of getting it done.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of, like when you're in the midst of it, of providing and doing what you're doing and making these decisions.
Yeah.
But the pride of getting it done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, hey man, I might have overdone it for my kids. I told my kids that I will pay for whatever college you qualify to go to.
Right.
I don't know. Was that like?
No, that's, I think, any good father.
That was cool, man. I was like, man, dude, hit the stars if you can, right? I'm here for you, right?
Yeah.
So, it's not like we just handed it to them. It's like you had to work.
Yeah, you still got to qualify for the college.
And I can tell you what, watch this. So my oldest, Dylan, he went to USC, went to El Camino, went to USC. Jelaine wasn't going to go to college. But then when Dylan graduated from USC, guess what Jelaine did? Entered El Camino College.
Yeah.
She went and got her bachelor. Then guess what she did? Went to San Francisco State. And she followed. She goes, man, if he did it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And Dylan helped her along the way, too. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So, giving the kids, the goals and the targets. But I think, overdoing it, I think that could be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it can be for sure, and that's the fear I have. I just want to make sure that, in one way or the other, you have to teach them to earn it, and it can be tough where that line is, but you have to put it somewhere.
But watch this, Claudio. Like, you see my wall and stuff, I have it there, right? So I really wanted to get a black belt when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I wanted one, man. But we moved a lot, didn't have the money, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to tell you, man, I made my oldest get a black belt.
Yeah.
Now, was that selfish of me? It might have been. It might have been because I wanted him to have a black belt.
Right.
And you know why I wanted him to have a black belt? Because I wanted him to feel what it was like to accomplish getting the black belt.
Right.
Right? Because it was something that I wanted to accomplish.
Exactly.
Right? And it was only because I wanted to feel the accomplishment. Right? So, I guess what? I have his black belt on my wall.
Yeah.
That ain't my black belt.
You don't even want it.
That ain't my black belt.
Yeah, Dean. So I think as whatever way I guess you could teach it is, but as long as it's taught, it's a principle that's taught in their lives.
But was that given too much? I mean,
no, I think I think you just taught it in your own way, in whatever way you could, because of course, I mean, you want to, if you can, and I'm not gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna pay for your college, even though I can. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you what was cool about that, bro. Is how you want to tell your kids stuff sometimes, but they're your kids, so you can't tell them.
Yeah.
I used to tell his master, "Hey, dude, bring this up to Dylan."
I'd
say, "Hey, bring this up to Dylan," because he'd go 3 times a week. So he'd bring it up in the whole class or whatever. He'd do it right. So it got me out of bringing things up to my son that I wanted to talk about.
Right. And I'm sure give him that push, Dean. So a couple more wrap up questions here, Dean. Then I got a little more another segment after that. So we talked about it a little bit earlier, but you've given back to the community and you've helped people where you can, including myself. Why do you think other people should do the same?
Well, I think they should because it makes you feel good, right?
It's the right thing to do.
It's. I heard a guy one day, and I was having sort of a tough week, we'll say, but I heard a guy one day say, "If you want self-esteem, do esteemable things." Right? So there's a lot to that saying, right? And I'm sitting here at 62 years old right now, and my wife still thinks that I help too many people out, right? But I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? It's like, I believe that you asked me why should other people do it?
Right.
It'll make you feel good. Mm-hmm. Right? It'll make you feel right. And it's not about the money. I mean, even though, for me, when I'm working, it's about the money. When I'm living, it's about helping people.
Yeah.
That's 2 different kind of things. Can you relate to that?
Right. No, I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. Get your good karma points, people.
What's that?
Get your good karma points. Last question for the interview segment, Dean. It's what's an everlasting message you want left behind attached to the name Dean Thomas?
A life well lived.
All right. I love that. All right. Now have another quick segment here, Dean. I think you're gonna like this one. We go back to our guest's first Instagram post ever posted. You don't post too much on Instagram, but look, this is your first. This is your first post on Instagram.
Oh.
This was in March 2020. So I know what's going on here, but can you just give us a quick little recap on this? We're gonna show it on the screen in the video too.
All right. So I had this is great. So what he just showed me on Instagram, it actually happened in around 2006.
Okay.
And I had a date with Keith Richards.
Beautiful.
Right. And I've always I've played guitar. You see some instruments and stuff around here. I really wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
Right. And I came to the realization that it wasn't going to happen for me, right? And I wasn't that talented, man, right? I don't read music, but I can play, but I don't
Yeah.
read. So anyways, I decided I'd be the Keith Richards of real estate.
I love that.
Right? So me and my partner, Charlie, we owned a commercial building in Torrance. And when we were building all of our homes, we bought this commercial building to store material, right? And Charlie said, Dean, I want to open a music studio here. So I said, no problem, Charlie. We'll both own the music studio, use our money and use our space, and doesn't have to pay any rent.
Right.
So Charlie really loved music, man, and he loved reggae music. Reggae music. So there was this guy named Remy Kabaka. And Remy Kabaka played on the Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes. What's that, Phil? Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes. I can't think of the guy's name. But anyways, Remy said he also played with the Stones at Altamont. Now, Remy is sleeping in one of our garages,
Yeah.
right? And we're thinking he didn't play with the Stones.
Right.
So, nonetheless, well, we're gonna keep it real here, okay? I'm gonna keep it real. So, Keith Richards calls up Remy. We're in the studio, and Keith says, "Hey, Remy, this is Keith Richards." And Remy says, "You guys keep it down. Keith Richards is on the phone."
Oh.
And that got our attention.
Yeah, of course.
So all of a sudden, it was like silence, right? So Keith asked Remy, "Do you want to come play with us at Anaheim Stadium, a few songs?" And Remy was a drinker. And Remy lived in one of our garages on a house we were about to tear down. And you got Keith Richards asking him if he wants to come jam with him at a freaking concert.
Yeah.
So Remy says, I have to bring my producer and my manager. Keith, I'd love to do it. I got to bring my producer and manager. So Charlie becomes the manager, my business partner,
Yeah.
and I become the producer.
Nice.
So he says, yeah, okay, cool. He says, okay, cool. So Charlie, I said, Charlie, I can't get there till 1 o'clock. But Charlie gets there at 10. And come on, Keith Richards is Keith Richards.
Yeah.
So Charlie gets there, and Keith Richards has got no weed.
Yeah.
And Charlie calls me up and says, Dean, Keith's got no weed. And I go, forget about it. Keith Richards is in Los Angeles, and he's got no weed?
Yeah.
I said, I'll be there in an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got there at 11:30, 11:15, in Anaheim Stadium, bro. I'll never forget it, gate 26, 11:30 in the morning. The place is empty, but the Rolling Stones are doing sound check.
Yeah.
And Keith Richards, Ronnie Woods, and my partner Charlie picked me up on a golf cart. Stuck a little weed in his pocket, became his best friend for the day.
Awesome. And you got to watch the whole show backstage, huh?
Oh, it was just like, if I told people that I hung out with Keith Richards and that stuff,
Yeah.
you got to have photos to prove it.
Right,
It's
right.
there.
And that's what
It's
this
right-
photo is.
it's
Exactly.
Right
It's
there,
right here. And I've heard that story a dozen times, Dean. It makes me smile every time.
Yeah, it's a good one,
It's a
man.
good story.
It's a good one.
Right. So, I have a quick little rapid fire question segment, Dean.
Okay.
Gives people a good idea, a little bit more about you on a personal scale. So just answer these questions quickly with whatever comes to your mind first. Okay. Number one is going out or staying in.
Staying in.
Describe your style in 1 to 3 words.
Every day's a work day. Every night's a weekend.
I love that one. Go-to fast food spot.
In and out.
I've been in love with In-N-Out lately. Overspending or oversaving?
I'm learning.
I'm learning.
Overspending.
All right.
But I'm learning.
Keeping it real on the Let's Get Real pod. Your current favorite music artist? Who are you listening to a lot right now?
Oh. 2 bands. Ed Sheeran and the band that's got the harmonica going on. I'll think of it in a minute.
All right. And finish this phrase. The way to my heart is...
Be cool.
Be cool. All right. So what are your big goals for the next 12 months, Dean? This is my last few questions here.
Wow. I have this technology, this IP that I put together. I'm going to do something with it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I know I'm going to do something with it. and sell some real estate. I mean, Claudio. I mean, there's sort of there's an interesting thing that happens in life, and I know this is a quick answer thing, quick segment, but when you do things right, people are attracted to it.
Right.
So you see me trying to wind my business down, and more just keeps coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you say no? Right? Like rap. I'm keeping it real, right?
Yeah.
So you know how I'm gonna say no is when I have 50 years in the business. I am not gonna talk about real estate anymore,
Yeah.
except for my past whatever I'm happy about. You know what I mean?
Right.
But right now, I mean, think about it. I mean, people. Just I'm going to suggest to anybody listening to this, be cool, do what's right, and your wildest dreams will come true, man.
Simple as that.
Yep.
Any shout outs or acknowledgments?
I'm going to say shout out to my wife. She's bad.
Jan Thomas.
Jan Thomas. Shout out to my kids, even though once in a while, kids and fathers, and so, man, I love my kids more than anything in the world.
Of course.
And I like to see them happy. And then I'm going to say, I've had a lot of agents work with me throughout the years, a lot of agents. So shout out to Claudio. It's been really, really real with Claudio. And hope he's learned a little bit from me in the past. And all that kind of stuff. And Gmoe, of course, is like, I'm just going to say that, Eric, every person that I've seen you around is a good person. And my oldest son always says, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with.
Yep. Right?
So you got a good group. Now, I always say, like, I bring down the average. so you know what? If just make sure you're in the right group, man. And
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
It's wonderful.
Last thing, Dean, where can people follow you or learn more about you?
I don't. This is sort of funny, bro. I was posting on Reels for a while.
Yeah.
And I was getting a lot of hits.
They changed that algorithm.
And Reels was paying me. Well, dude, I posted something the other day, just on my Facebook page. I didn't put it on Reels.
Yeah.
It's got 180,000 hits.
Damn.
It's got like, dude, it's and I didn't put it on Reels because I was like giving too many. People were looking at me like I was becoming a social media guy, and I'm not a social media guy, right? I'm a real estate guy, and I'm a business guy. But if you want to hit me up, go to Dean Thomas Real Estate. Get a hold of Cloudy. Get a hold of me. Whatever, man. But what I like to finish up with saying, Cloudy, really proud of you, and just keep on keeping it real.
Absolutely. Thank you for everything.
Cool.
Guys, this was another episode of the Let's Get Real podcast. My name is Eric Cloudy, your favorite realtor, a.k.a. non-generic Eric, because I keep it real with you guys. Take care. Thank you for watching.
Cheers.